Plans to house asylum seekers at RAF Scampton have been met with fury and disappointment in the community. So the airfield was the HQ of the famous World War II Dambuster Squadron, but the Home Office wants to use the site as an asylum centre to reduce the cost of using hotels. Tensions rose, locals clashed last night when a special meeting was held to discuss the proposals. They were told that asylum seekers could even be housed in cabins on the historic runway in kind of like makeshift shipping containers, actually. Joining me now is Scampton Councillor Roger Patterson. Roger, thank you very much for joining us. So what is the latest then? Is there still massive public anger? What's happening?
Hi, Patrick. Yeah, there's disbelief and anger and devastation, really, at the proposals. 1 minute we had a deal that I think it was probably one of the biggest we've ever had in Lincolnshire, with about 1,000 jobs, tourism, our heritage protected, museums, the red arrows continuing to fly over Scampton. And the next minute, it's been stolen away from us by these proposals, or potentially stolen from us by these proposals. So there's anger and disbelief at what the government's doing.
Well, there seems to be twofold. Firstly, it's a very, very historic site and one of massive cultural importance to Great Britain, and the idea that it would be used for anything other than that, I think, is offensive to people, actually offensive to people. The other side of it, of course, is whether or not the area should be taking in these asylum seekers. Let's deal with the first one first, the historical side of this. Why, in your view, should a site of this historical importance not be used to house asylum seekers?
It's, well, we've just got so much history. The airfield dates back to 1915. And apart from the Dambuster raid, Guy Gibson and all the stuff that goes with it, the Vulcan bomber that bombed Port Stanley during the Falklands War actually flew from RAF Scampton. We've had plenty of other operations, the Red Arrows. We've had troops there that have gone to Afghanistan and Iraq. It's the history of the base is just absolutely phenomenal. And we're very keen, and we want to preserve it, and we want to tell the story for future generations to enjoy.
Yeah, and I understand that there are plans to invest, in this deal for RAF Scampton as well, to maybe do it up a little bit and help deal with, a variety of issues there and turn it into more of a tourist attraction potentially that could as well bring with it some economic benefit to the local area. That's obviously in massive doubt now, isn't it, as a result of this? But just in terms of the residents themselves in that area, how do they feel about the idea of having potentially around 1,500 people from goodness knows where just dropped into their area?
I don't think it's actually so much to do with who they are. It's what they represent. And what they represent is, it could be Boy Scouts. It doesn't matter who it is. It's the fact that the site is unsuitable to house anybody of that number. The site's derelict. It has no water and sewage connections where they're going to place these people. And you can't have people living in squalor. But it's what it represents, the fact that if we get anybody, no matter who it is, on that site, then we are destined to live in the pocket of the council for years and years, as has happened at other bases locally nearby, where the government just pulled the plug on them and left them destitute, and the councils had to bail them out. Scampton's different. We've got this £300 million regeneration deal. It's probably the biggest they've ever done at any airbase or any ex-forces base in the country, and the government want to house people.
Look, Roger,
and stop thing.
The fact is, it would be so easy for the government not to do this. OK, it would be so easy for the government not to do this. They could say the site isn't fit for purpose to actually house all of these people. So whilst the plot of land might be big enough, the actual site itself is not. They could say, you know what, we're not going to do it because it will cost local people the jobs. It will be damaging to the local community, just in the first instance, in order to have to do that economically, but also in the long run as well, because as you've rightly identified, a lot of these people are going to end up being reliant on the state for a very, very long period of time. So there is that side of things as well. There is, as you just said, the massive historical significance of this site, an inherently British site, and I think nothing encapsulates the total capitulation of our border policy at the minute than lobbing 1,500 people from goodness knows where into porter cabins on a runway, the same runway where the dam busters missions took off, and you mentioned there about the Falkland Islands and Port Stanley, etc. So it would be so easy for the government to not do this, just move on and do it somewhere else. Are they listening to you?
I hope so. I know our Police and Crime Commissioner is meeting the Home Secretary today, and I've given him a brief of what we're fighting for, and he's well aware of it. He came to the meeting last night. I know our MP's lobbying, the council's lobbying all the time. Whether it's fallen on deaf ears or not, I don't know. All they have to do is come up. I'm happy to meet anybody for the Home Office or the MOD. They can come up, they can have a look at the 3X bases where they totally wreck people's lives, and then I'll take them to Scampton, and they can have a look around there, and they can see that they can make a difference this time, and they can really change things and protect our heritage. If we didn't have this heritage, if we had the accommodation that was in fit for purpose, I couldn't be sat here now arguing about whether they should come or not. But the point is, they can't come because the site is practically derelict, and you can't house people in squalor.
Isn't it amazing, though? You've got a former RAF base here, and we've got thousands of homeless military veterans, and we haven't got the money in the funds to do that base up, to put military veterans on it, but we can get shipping containers and potentially line the runways with it and spend millions of pounds potentially of taxpayers' money completely just desecrating a patch of British history so that we can house people. Look, it makes me very, very angry indeed. But look, thank you very much. Really appreciate your time. Thank you for talking to us about this. That's Cllr Roger Patterson there. He's Conservative for Scampton and Vice Chair as well as West Lindsey District Council. Look, what do you make of that, ladies and gentlemen? No doubt whatsoever it's going to get a lot of you going, as indeed it has. GBViews at gbnews.uk. People really, really angry about all of this, saying it's not just costing us money, it's driving a coach and horses through our history and our culture, and that's from Dorothy. It's Dorothy's views there. What are yours? GBViews at gbnews.uk.